Many of you have been asking me on X and here about Judge Roger Benitez and what is this decision involving allegations of misconduct about him that the Judicial Conference of Judges out of the Ninth Circuit has ruled that he engaged in misconduct when it came to dealing with the daughter of a criminal defendant. Well, let me break this down for you. Bottom line is, this is actually going to backfire on the anti-gunners, and no one understands this, but I'm going to make sure you do. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this one about Judge or Saint Roger Benitez. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of many books, including Disarmed: What the Ukraine War Teaches Americans About the Right to Bear Arms. All right, folks. Judge Roger Benitez, some of you out there in California refer to him as Saint Benitez. You probably have seen some news stories about a decision by something called the Judicial Council of the Ninth Circuit, which is a group of judges, federal judges in the Ninth Circuit, not just the appellate judges, but some of the district court judges. As a reminder, district court judges are the federal trial judges, the Court of Appeals is the appellate judges. So there's a combination of these judges get together and they kind of oversee complaints about the judges. There's really not a lot they can do, but we're going to get to that in 1 second. Anyway, the Judicial Conference of the Ninth Circuit found, based on some complaints, that Judge Roger Benitez engaged in misconduct in one particular incident where he took the daughter, a 13-year-old daughter, I think she was 13, a 13-year-old daughter of a criminal defendant who was in prison, in federal prison, for all sorts of drug-related crimes. And he was in prison for drug-related crimes. And during the sentencing hearing, the criminal defendant expressed concern to Judge Benitez and said that one of the reasons why he wanted to get out of prison earlier than otherwise was to help his 13-year-old daughter try to stay straight, because he said that the daughter was interacting with some sort of bad influences. She had engaged in certain drug-related activities, and he was very concerned that his 13-year-old daughter, who was in the courtroom that day to support him, he expressed concern to Judge Benitez during this criminal hearing that his daughter might be going down a bad path, and he wanted to be able to get out of jail sooner rather than later to help the daughter stay straight. So as a result of this colloquy between Judge Benitez, the lawyers, and the criminal defendant, Judge Benitez actually engaged in what historically has been known as a strategy of scared straight. Now, the scared straight strategy is basically you take young at-risk kids who seem to be in at-risk environments for going down bad paths and becoming criminals and going to prison. You try to scare them so they don't do that anymore by showing them, giving them a taste of what it would be like if they continued down the road of crimes and they get arrested and they go to prison for a long time, why it's not an activity or not something you want to do. So as a result of this, what Judge Benitez did, and I'll put a link to the discussion that lays out the details, he basically ordered the United States Marshals in the courtroom once he found out the daughter was there. He says, I want you to go over there and I want you to bring the girl up, put her where the criminal defendants are, the prisoners are, if you will, in the courtroom that day, and I want you to handcuff her, and I want you to sit her down beside the other criminals, the other prisoners, so that she gets a taste of it. And that's exactly what he did. Now, I should let you know that this is just some of the colloquy back and forth. Specifically, Judge Benitez was talking to the criminal defendant, and this is what she said. This is what he said, and you'll see why this prompted Judge Benitez to take action. What the criminal defendant said, Mr. Puente, said, quote, she's, meaning the daughter, she's basically growing up where I grew up, so she's encountering the same people that I grew up with. That's going to lead her into the same path that I went down. Me being gone is not helping. I'm not there to pull her away from that. The only thing I can do for her is to try to get her help out, try to get her out. It's just what we grow up around. It's there. No matter what we do, it's who we're around. I don't want that for her. And that's what prompted Judge Benitez to say to the marshal, you got cuffs, do you? What's that young lady's name? And then he asked her again to come up, and she was handcuffed for a period of time. He then, after this occurred, he then specifically said the following to her, and it's pretty clear that he was acting with good intentions. There's no dispute he was doing so. Even this judicial conference said he was doing so. He's basically asked the girl, how do those cuffs feel on you? And she said, I didn't like it. How do you like sitting up here? She said she didn't like it. And this is what Judge Benitez said. And then you're going to see what this judicial council did, Judge Benitez. You'll be shocked, but it's going to turn out to be good for us, strangely enough. We'll get to that in 1 second. So specifically what happened is Judge Benitez said, as she was up there, apparently, according to the report, she was crying. She was upset because she was in handcuffs alongside these criminal defendants in a courtroom. This is what Judge Benitez said to her. Kind of good advice. He says, when she says, I didn't like it, he says, quote, good. That was the message I was hoping to get to you. So your dad's made some serious mistakes in his life, and look at where it's landed him. And as a result of that, he has to spend time away from you. And if you're not careful, young lady, you'll wind up in cuffs, and you'll find yourself there where I put you a minute ago. And then someday you'll look back and you'll say to yourself, where did my life go? And the answer will be that you spent most of your life in and out of jail, in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And it will probably be because of drugs. You're an awfully cute young lady, and I have a feeling you have a wonderful life ahead of you. But from what I just heard about from your dad causes me to be very troubled. You can go back and sit with your mom now. So he goes on to basically say that, remember this and remember my face, because it's very important that you don't make decisions and you don't get involved with drugs. Powerful language. So what did this Judicial Council of the Ninth Circuit do? What they basically said is that they thought that this was not allowed, that Judge Benitez did not have the authority to have this woman handcuffed, and therefore he was found to have engaged in misconduct. Now, I should note that Judge Benitez did not apologize. He did not do anything that showed, he's like, hey, I'm not apologizing for any of this. I'm trying to help this young lady out, and I don't apologize for that. So he was pretty clear he was not changing. And by the way, I support Judge Benitez entirely in this. But let's carry on. So the consequence of this is that this conference of judges out there in the Ninth Circuit said that because Judge Benitez engaged in misconduct, they're going to censor him or punish him in a sense. And here's what's ironic, and here's how it's going to backfire on the anti-gun movement. They are, by virtue of his agreement, not to handle any more criminal cases. Did you hear what I just said? Judge Benitez says he's not going to handle any more criminal cases because as a senior judge, by the way, you have that authority anyway. And as a result of that, this Judicial Conference of the Ninth Circuit said, well, since Judge Benitez is willing to give up hearing criminal cases where this event occurred, guess what? We're going to enter an order that says he cannot handle any criminal cases for the next 5 years, which, by the way, in the real world, which is where I travel, if you're a senior federal judge, you generally don't like criminal cases in federal court because the truth is they basically are crap. And what I mean by that is the criminal cases you see in federal court are almost uniformly drug cases. They're not very interesting. These are dumb people making dumb mistakes involving drugs. They're in and out of prison. They're a pain in the butt. You got to do them right, of course, but they're time suck in terms of the taking the police. It's just not interesting work. It's not good work from the perspective of the federal judge. So the fact that Judge Benitez is saying, I won't hear any more criminal cases, in some ways is a favor to Judge Benitez. But here's how it backfires. Because he's not going to hear any more criminal cases, guess what that means? You know what it means. It means that Judge Benitez's workload has now dramatically been reduced, which means he's going to have the bandwidth to take on and work harder and do more extra work on civil cases. And why is that important? Because Second Amendment challenges in California are, you guessed it, civil cases, not criminal. So ironically, if you're an anti-gun judge, if you're an anti-gunner, you're not happy that Judge Benitez is now going to have more time and bandwidth to handle civil cases because he's gotten rid of all those crappy criminal cases, which frankly are crappy. Take my word for it. We can do a whole video on that as a separate point. They're important, but they're crappy to handle. So there's only two additional things I want to say about this Judge Benitez issue. The first is, generally speaking, the quality of the judging in America, in my opinion, has gotten worse over the last several decades. And the consequence of that, or the result of that, is because that the new judges, the younger judges, as a general rule, come right out of government. They go from college to law school. They do a federal clerkship. Then they go to work for a prosecutor's office or some government agency, and then they become judges. Do you hear what I just said? College, law school, clerkship, working for a judge. Then they work for some government agency, either as a prosecutor, DOJ lawyer, public defender, whatever it is, and then they go become a judge. The consequences, they never really deal with the real world. They don't have real clients, you know, that kind of stuff. It's a whole different animal what they do. So as a consequence, when you have some sort of real world situation where Judge Benitez is trying to help this 13-year-old girl from going down a bad path, you know, they want to punish him because he allegedly violated some rule. But here's the ironic point. Now, I want you to keep in mind whatever you think of Donald Trump, we'll get to that in another video, but Donald Trump and how they're treating him, this is the ironic point. Listen to what this group of judges said about the judicial system, and then I want you to think about what I'm going to read to you from these judges and apply to the Donald Trump cases in New York. This is what they wrote in their opinion that basically found that Judge Benitez engaged in misconduct. They wrote, quote, "Independent judicial decision-making depends on the public's trust and confidence in the judiciary, and Judge Benitez's actions at the Puente hearing undermine this trust and confidence. The Judicial Council therefore concludes that Judge Benitez's actions constituted conduct prejudicial to the effective and expeditious administration of the business of the courts." This is obviously crap, okay? It's crap. Right? This is simply a scared straight strategy to try to help a young person get their life together. And the fact that a judge is willing to take time out of his busy schedule, specifically Judge Benitez, to actually go out of his way to try to help this young lady out is the right thing to do, in my opinion. Okay? It is. And yes, maybe he deviated some procedures and practices. That's true, but he did it for the right reasons, and he should not have been punished for it. But at the end of the day, it's going to work out in our favor because eliminating those criminal cases is going to open up more opportunities for Judge Benitez to do more Second Amendment rulings, which I think, as a general matter, is good because he does a very good job, you know, working on those kinds of cases. And of course, given that language about confidence and trust in the judicial system, needless to say, I would be laughing my butt off if I was talking about this on Fox News in conjunction with what's going on with Donald Trump. Whether you like him or not, the truth is those cases involving him, shall we say, are not exactly building up the public trust in the judicial system, but that's for a conversation for another day. All right, so the bottom line is, do not lose sleep over this Judge Benitez situation. I told you not to do it in the past. Don't do it in the future. This is the outcome of it, and the only people that I think suffer from this are young kids that may be able to come before Judge Benitez who could have got turned around and scared straight and got their life together. They're not going to have that opportunity. They're going to be in front of judges. They won't bother doing that, and the people that will pay the price for that will be the young kids that won't be scared straight and will go down a bad path with bad outcomes. They will ultimately pay the price for this decision involving Judge Benitez and nobody else. So there you have it. Hope you learned something here today at the Four Boxes Diner. Don't forget to follow me on X at Four Boxes Diner, and please subscribe and resubscribe. We're still trying to get to 150,000 subscribers. We're hearing some stories of people getting knocked off the subscription list. Don't know why. So make sure your subscription is good. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon here at the Four Boxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.